the mining from volcanoes you've probably seen.
Crypto is being scapegoated. Become the tapestry. Is the second person morally worse than the first person because they hit someone, despite the fact that they drove the exact same way? But it's kind of a question of, do you think that humans living in a simulation is an inevitability? Why is gas and petroleum so much cheaper than cleaner energy? Hello, my knowledge-thirsty beauties, and welcome to another episode of the DP2daBrain Podcast. With me, we have ourselves another wonderful crossover episode. This time, we have the host of the GloryToFootball Podcast. Devon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, Devon, you got a podcast? You got a Twitch channel?
I do.
Go ahead and give me the rundown of what the GloryToFootball is all about.
Me and a buddy of mine actually had a podcast, like when COVID first hit. So we kind of just talked about sports or whatever. But it was so hard to actually find time that worked for both of us to actually record. So I kind of just decided, hey, I love soccer. Why not just make a podcast and talk about soccer whenever? So I kind of took over what was T&D Sports Talk and just kind of rebranded it to GloryToFootball. And then Twitch was kind of something that I've wanted to do for a little bit, but I didn't really have the time for it. And now that soccer's over, I have a little bit more time, and I'm hoping to eventually start making a little bit extra income off of it.
Definitely.
But if not, oh well.
What kind of content can we find on your Twitch channel?
FIFA. I stream FIFA. Eventually down the road, I want to just kind of go on there and talk about like big games, like last night's USA-Mexico game.
Oh yeah, we're going to dig into that. For context, this is being recorded on November 13th, the day after US's 2-0 win in the World Cup qualifier at was it TQC Stadium? Right? TQL.
Yep.
Which I forgot that they weren't at Nippert anymore, honestly.
It's actually, their stadium is beautiful. Their new one. It's awesome.
Well, it's good to hear. Maybe they can, do something beautiful on the field.
Yeah. I don't know. Since he's not that good.
No, they're atrocious.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to keep with this just real quick. Now, it's kind of funny because for those watching, I'm wearing my old school Snoop Dogg shirt here. I was just listening to part of Joe Rogan just had him on his podcast. And
okay.
Snoop has been getting into like live announcing, mostly boxing, but sports events. So have you considered doing like live play-for-play through Twitch for like real games going on, like alternate commentary?
I have. The biggest turnoff for that is copyright, because technically you can't share your screen so they know what's going on. I mean, I guess it would kind of be like a radio type thing.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of bootleg it where you just like, all right, everyone started this, how Netflix watch parties, everyone hit play at this. Well, I think that, and I think I've had this conversation with somebody where I think that is where we should be heading, but like what has to happen is the like ESPN and which whole nother conversation, ESPN pushing the game around onto ESPN News for those people who weren't streaming, so that they can continue showing a football game, which, good football game.
That part actually was sort of true. Like as soon as kickoff happened, it went to ESPN2 and they kicked the football game to ESPN News.
Okay. I was following along in the Twitterverse, and
Twitter was ablaze about it. So yeah,
Twitter still thinks Ricardo Pepi is the starter, but we'll get there. But I want to keep on the glory to football real quick. And what I was going to say, and what the rights holder, they need to just add in like some kind of plug-in feature, because I could see that being popular in the future, especially with like how popular YouTubers and, you know, quote unquote online celebrities are. All they have to do is, you know, get the plug-in to maybe not Twitch, maybe some new specific software just for alternate sports commentary. Yeah. And then all they would have to do is make a plugin for that, and then you could pick whatever. You could have a list of all your favorite commentators, and some might be commentating that game, some might not. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like you can switch between languages.
Yeah.
So
that would make life easier, but you know.
Well, and I think because a lot of times, like, traditional commentary is very analytical and, you know, full of the jargon, and, you know, for someone who's looking for that, that's great. But a lot of people are maybe not as interested in getting so technical, or they just want a little bit more entertainment factor from their commentary. So, you know, just giving people more options to get something that's a little bit more, you know, down their alley, if you will. So I hope that's something that they pick up on soon, and I don't think it'd be too hard technology wise either.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, we alluded to it, so we might as well get to it because it's still hot in the heart for me. Last night's game. So were you in the stadium last night?
I was not.
Okay.
It is a whole different ball game when it comes to CONCACAF.
In terms of
trying to get media credentials.
Okay. Well, even just general tickets, though. I know it's hard to get general tickets anyway.
Yeah. I do know. Me and a buddy of mine were thinking about going, but at the time we looked, tickets were like $400, and I was not spending $400 on a ticket.
You got to be in the Outlaws, I think, is the only way to be sure that you at least get a chance at them.
Yeah. And then yesterday tickets dropped to about $155, $160. But I already had made plans, so I wasn't able to go. Or otherwise I would have.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean, they just had the. All right. Well, and we're both Columbus guys. We love Columbus. How does what do you? Especially, it was Dos Acero, and you know, I gotta say, and we'll get to the actual match itself. I thought we played fairly well. But I don't know, it just feels, I don't like the idea that Cincinnati is taking the US-Mexico game from us. And, you know, objectively speaking, Columbus doesn't own that game, but I don't know. You know, just as a Columbus-centric guy, it's not my preference. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I do not like FC Cincinnati just because that is our biggest rival. But if you're looking on the other side, it stayed in the state of Ohio. It's not like they went to LA or Miami or New York or a big city and said, yep, that's where we're going to make the most money. So we're going to put the biggest rivalry in CONCACAF there. Instead, they stuck with a suburban, smaller city, and it ultimately stayed in the state of Ohio. So I can't really be too mad, although Dos Acero will always be a Columbus thing, and it will always have originated in Columbus. I'm not too upset about it. I do think that the future USA-Mexico games will probably be at Cincinnati.
That seems. I mean, throughout the whole broadcast, it very much was. I mean, and that's why I'm bringing it up. They were very much like the torch is being passed. It used to be in Columbus, now it's to. And I'm like, well, you know, we have a new shiny stadium too.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that if I were not if I didn't have skin in the game, I would be 100% agree with you. And I might even feel like, yeah, give it to Cincinnati, let them keep growing. Just as a Columbus person, it's mine. I want it. Mine.
Yeah. As a Columbus fan, yes, I want it. I don't want it to go anywhere else. I want every USA-Mexico game, whether it's a friendly, World Cup qualifier, World Cup game in 2026 in Columbus. That's where the U.S. has had most of their success against Mexico. I think it should stay there. But kind of being a media member, I kind of have to look at it from both sides. So I'm not really too
I can admit I'm being unreasonable and selfish.
Yeah. No, I don't even really think that's unreasonable. Like, there's a lot of people that I saw on Twitter were like, yeah, why would you take this game from Columbus? Why move it to their biggest rival in Cincinnati? But then the other thing was it was still in the state of Ohio. So
yeah, it's not like now if they had gone to like LA, if they had gone somewhere where they would have had an away crowd, basically, that would have been unacceptable.
Yes.
If they went down to anywhere in Texas or anywhere in southern LA, we would have, if they decided to go to the Rose Bowl, we'd be playing.
I would say anywhere more West Coast-ish will probably be a more pro-Mexican crowd than it would be pro-USA crowd.
Yeah. No, and it's a little. No, actually, once again, this is November 13th. I don't know if you guys had any snow over there. We had our first snowflakes come in over here, Youngstown area.
I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to the weather today.
Well, it looked chilly.
Oh, it's cold, but I haven't seen snow, so which is kind of surprising.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, so kind of shifting focus towards the actual game itself. I don't know, just kind of sum it up. What were your overall thoughts of the game?
I am gonna be brutally honest. I think Mexico was the better team for majority of the game. The first half, it took 2 brilliant Zach Steffen saves to keep them in the game, especially that breakaway on Chucky Lozano. I thought that was one of the best saves I've ever seen. The second half was much, much better. Greg Berhalter made good tactical changes, in my opinion. He kind of dropped Tyler Adams a little deeper to get on the ball more. But I still think Mexico was the better team. We just kind of finished the 2 chances that we had, in my opinion. I'm not mad. We still won. Yeah. I can't be mad. But I think the U.S. can play much better. And now they go to Jamaica next, and they're going to be without Weston McKennie, and they're going to be without Miles Robinson. So I really.
Well, they have Chris Richards, right? Isn't he in the camp?
I believe he's in the camp. Yes.
They've got someone else or Mike McKenzie's also there. I'm not like hugest fit. Was he? I was trying to figure out who was rocking the cornrows. It was someone who didn't play. I think it was Mark McKenzie, but I'm not.
It might have been. It might have been.
I don't know. I think I feel a little bit rosier on it than you did. I was pretty happy. I liked our approach. I don't know, a lot of the pregame was like, we're going to be pragmatic, we're going to be counter. No, we came out and, for better or worse, and execution-wise, there was a lot of giveaways in our own half, in the first half, that were not good enough. But we came out and we played, especially as us being Columbus guys, this is Greg Berhalter ball. We're really starting. I mean, I would have to say at this point, we have our outside back set. There was a question of which side does Sergino play on. I think at this point you have to have Jedi on the left.
Yes.
And then obviously when Sergino is healthy, I would prefer him over a Yedlin. Although I think Yedlin's fine. He's good depth.
Yeah. Also helps to have his experience too.
Yes.
Now, when they travel to the Azteca, I would much prefer to have DeAndre Yedlin. Only because of experience. He's played in the Azteca before. The U.S. is one of, if not the youngest national team currently in World Cup qualifying. And his experience, I feel like, will go a long way.
Yeah. I think I really want to see Giassi get healthy.
I do.
This is really his chance. This is it's everyone's saying Pepe. I'm really not seeing it. I mean, he's had a couple good moments. He had a couple good layoffs, but he's just not there. He's just, he's MIA most of the game.
Yeah, he was like a bystander yesterday, in my opinion.
Well, even in the games he scored, like the whole, like up until the goal, like
he was a bystander.
Now, as long as you score the goals, that's fine. Just ask Solskjaer.
Yeah.
But when you don't, then that's when it becomes a problem. And I also think Giassi, personality wise, I think he's good to have in the camp as well. And also, he's more on the veteran side of things.
Yep.
So that's why I rate him very highly.
I will say yesterday, my two standout performers was Brendan Aronson and Walker Zimmerman.
Yes. Walker, he was exactly what we needed him to be because I loved how we pressed. We came pressing from the first minute. We pressed high and hard all game, and that's what if we do that, we need to make sure that our center backs don't get beat, and he was keeping it pressed in, constantly winning. I was having a conversation with someone where he didn't necessarily win all the headers, but as a defender, you don't have to win the header. You just have to make sure the other person doesn't.
Yep.
As long as the attacker doesn't win the header, you've won.
Yeah.
So I thought he was great. Weah, I feel like we never get to see him enough.
Yeah.
But he was really good. Yeah.
He was brilliant.
I've been, I pat myself on the back all the time, but I've been, since he was at Philly, I'm like, this dude can ball, and he's constantly gotten better. I mean, he'll be wearing an eye patch in the next game, but this whole lack of VAR is just so ridiculous.
I can't believe CONCACAF does not have VAR.
Well, and now they're saying, it's going to come in January now. Well, what?
It's too late.
What were you waiting on?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I will also say, Greg Berhalter's decision to go with Zach Steffen was brilliant.
I was, as a goalkeeper, I wanted to get your take on that. You have this interesting situation here where, no one questions Zach's talent, but he does not play as often.
Yeah, he does not get game time at City. And on the flip side, you have Matt Turner, who is
showing out,
the starter for the best team in MLS regular season history ever. I think it really came down to Mexico's high press. Mexico is going to press the heck out of you. And Zach Steffen is so much better with his feet than Matt Turner is.
And
I think
Greg said. That's what Greg said.
That was the biggest thing, I think. And he did very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one thing about Greg. So, I don't always agree with his decisions, but he is. I'm so tired of seeing the United States play in fear. That's why I didn't want to go back to, no disrespect. Bruce Arena is obviously cleaning up in MLS, like you just mentioned. I don't know. I just like especially when they talk about playing pragmatic. Oh, they're going to possess the. I was so glad when we didn't play that way because I'm tired of us. We should go out and play instead of. We should never play afraid. Basically,
yeah.
The idea of coming out afraid is downright un-American.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this is the first we have the talent. Oh my God. Not only is this the most talented generation, but it's a generation with heart. One of the biggest issues during Klinsmann's time is we had the talent, but we didn't have the heart.
We also have the depth too.
Yes.
If you kind of think about it, like, especially over the summer, when the B team pretty much ran the Gold Cup. And it was like, this is the most depth the U.S. men's national team, I think, has ever had. And then you go to the A team in the Nations League, you beat Mexico again. And then the A team / I guess they had some B team guys yesterday too, but the depth is just insane.
Oh, definitely agree with you. And there's a lot more competition for position. It's a lot harder, like in the Klinsmann years, we had depth at certain positions, but at other positions, it was like, well, it's you,
Yeah.
I liked Fabian Johnson, very talented, but he was someone that you could tell he was not being put at any point. He never felt like he was in, he would never be dropped no matter what. And I don't think, there's not a single position on this team. I mean, even John Brooks proved himself undroppable. Yeah. I think he deserved his dropping, and I don't know if you saw his statement, but he agreed with it as well.
Yeah.
Which very mature for him. And, just like Weston, it's not like he's done. Just, he'll be back next time, and, hopefully like Weston, it'll light a little bit more of that fire. One thing about Weston, there's not a fight. It does not matter how far across the field it is. He's getting involved.
Yeah, he is.
He's a spark plug, but I like it. I like that,
his
not
tenacity.
But he's not like over the top. Like, he doesn't lose his temper and get like a ton of red cards or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's scrappy. That's another thing I like about Aronson. He's not like the biggest dude, but he's scrappy, especially when he presses.
Yeah.
So definitely agree with that. So there is, at this point, I think it's definitely a trend that United States is stronger in the second half. Would you agree?
I agree with that.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think it's a case of us starting at 90% and then raising it to 100 at halftime, or are we coming out at 100 and going up to 110 at halftime?
I think it's more of a first half kind of feeling it out. So I guess to answer your question, I think it's 95 and then to 110. I think.
Okay. Kind of split the difference of it. I see what you're saying.
I think especially Greg Berhalter wise, I think he takes the first half, kind of assess what's going on. And I think that was evident yesterday with his halftime changes, tactical changes that he made. Because in the first half, you could kind of tell our wingbacks were getting super, super high up, and they weren't really getting back in time. So it was kind of a 2v2, 3v3, or a 2v2 or a 3v2 when Mexico was attacking, and he kind of dropped Tyler Adams down, mostly to get back on the ball because he's very good at distributing. But I think in the second half, it's more the tactical changes that Greg Berhalter makes. That kind of is the difference.
So would you say in the first half, they're purposefully a little extra experimental, and that might lead to them not being like it, when you're being a little extra experimental, you're not, that's what you're saying is 95, where but they're doing that to kind of feel out stuff so that they can make those changes in the second half. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, because I'm just kind of looking at it is like, are we getting better in the second half, or are we not starting good enough? And I think that was just too binary of a way of looking at it. Well, we do, by being experimental, we do, like you were mentioning, we do open ourselves up in certain ways, but then we also respond to those things as well. So it's a double-edged sword, but like I said before, Greg is no, I'm not gonna say he's not pragmatic, because I don't think that's accurate. But he is confident, I think would just be the best way to put it.
I would agree with that. And
I like to see that. I like to see the United States carry itself with confidence in terms of soccer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The one thing I would say is I think last night's midfield is the way to go.
Yeah. I like Musa for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me pose it to you this way. Let's say Gio and Christian are both fully fit. Do you prefer Musa, or would you rather see Aronson in the midfield? Because I'd like to see, I think if Gio and Christian are healthy, they start at both wing positions.
Yes.
So,
I guess it really depends.
It would depend on who we're playing.
Yeah, it would depend. Yeah, it would depend on who we're playing. I feel like Brendan Aronson's more of a attacking midfielder, and I feel like Yunus Musa is more of a box to box, but more of a defensive box to box. He kind of cleans up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he breaks the lines with his ball carrying, is what he.
Yes.
So I think like in a game versus Mexico, I would go with Yunus to break their press, but against maybe someone like Jamaica or someone who's going to sit a little deeper, I would have Aronson for his creativity.
Yep.
So, or I don't know. I still think that Giassi can win that number 9 spot, but should none of these other Surgeon has kind of fallen a little bit off in the pecking order.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't really seem to go well for Americans in the EPL. He's having a Josie.
Yeah. Yeah. It also doesn't help he plays for Norwich.
Yeah, well, exactly. We go to the worst teams in the EPL.
Yeah.
Josie went to Hull.
Yeah.
So, but he's far from done. There's also Pfok. I like Pfok. He's still a bit raw, but I like his athleticism.
Yep.
But what if even Aronson is like a false 9, perhaps?
Yes.
So it would be Pulisic, Aronson, Gio, and then Eunice, Weston, Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
I think that's. Well, yeah. I think the number 9 spot is the only one that we really haven't quite figured out.
Yes, and that's something that hasn't been figured out in a long time.
Yep.
Even when Josie was there, he was the number 9. He started every game, but that's because there was nobody else.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who wasn't being pushed for their position, and I think it showed.
Yep.
A lot of that in the 2018 failure. But
yes.
Oh, and to shift gears just a little bit, because you did mention it, that you're not just a fan; you also do writing and media. So, I guess my first question would be kind of how did that all get started?
I was kind of looking for like a little extra income on the side. And in January, I saw something on, I think it was Twitter, about a group or like a website hiring writers for football or soccer. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? You just got to write 3 articles a month, and depending on your views, maybe you get a little bonus, stuff like that. I was like, okay, I can do that. And then there was another sort of type thing that wasn't really paying, but I could get the experience that I couldn't get from the other one.
You could get like media passes and stuff like that.
Yes. So that's called Mls Now Podcast. It's also a podcast. But they have people from every MLS team. And we all have media passes, and we all go sit in the press boxes at games. And that was something that the other place couldn't really get.
Sure, yeah.
Give to me. And I feel like especially in that kind of industry, experience matters over anything else.
Well, and I have this conversation with people all the time, why I think portfolios are so much more important than resumes.
Yes.
And having a portfolio of articles written in, I'd call, MLS podcast, that's pretty major. That's pretty big, So, is there like is there any avenue for like upward mobility to become like a employee there, or or they just kind of just do that?
As of right now, it's kind of just the experience thing until, at least from what I've been told, until they start growing a little more, which is happening. They've grown. I guess we've grown a lot since.
So there's potential down the road.
I came on board, yeah. But as of right now, there's no avenue to really get compensated for that stuff. Other than the experience you get from it.
But that's valuable. That's very valuable.
Yeah.
So what? Just give us a rundown. How many articles have you written for MLS Pod now?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you.
Well, okay. How many articles a week? You said 3 a week?
No, that was for a different.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Excuse me. Yeah. How many a week do you do for it, or is it just after every game?
I normally do a preview and a recap of each Columbus Crew game.
Okay.
And then I guess the off season started now for them because they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So to be kind of roster moves that could be made, players out of contract, players that will probably come back, players that probably won't come back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I also have a feature coming with them.
So, and do you have a headline or topic?
I'm actually interviewing a Crew player.
Can you say
Eloy Room?
Eloy
Room. Yeah.
That must be so cool for you as a goalkeeper.
I am super, super excited. So
best goalkeeper in MLS. He got robbed.
He's up there.
I'll fight. I will fight. I will fight anyone in the parking. I will fight the Kraft family in the parking lot of the wrong football stadium. Can't be the best goalkeeper in the league when you play on turf. Sorry, not sorry. No, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Do you think Loom or Turner?
This year, Turner.
Eloy missed a couple games for a couple different things. He got injured at one point, and then he had protocol stuff because I believe he's not vaccinated.
He is not. I am almost positive he's not.
You should ask him about that. You should bring some doses with you and be like, "Would you be willing?" No.
Another one I would throw in there would be Andre Blake.
Yeah. You always got to give. Yeah, you always got to give props to. Well, every time we have to play him in Jamaica, he stands on his head.
Yeah, it's insane. He's insane.
But yeah, I'd say those are top 3. But so how much maybe guidance or are they in terms of MLS? Are they kind of just just go at it, or how much guidance or direct instruction are you getting in terms of what they're looking for in content?
Honestly, not really. They're just kind of hey, go with your flow, whatever you feel is necessary, go with it. They kind of when I first started, they kind of showed me different things and was kind of here's an example of one, here's another example, but basically just do you, however you want to set it up is fine. I'm probably going to start experimenting a little bit because I've kind of stayed with what I've been doing because that's what I was comfortable with, and it was also the time factor. That's what I was comfortable with, so it took less time to actually do stuff.
Well, yeah, it was in season, so it makes sense. Before, after, and then I say I'm kind of doing the same thing with my podcast here, where between seasons, that's when you kind of make upgrades to the systems and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of editorially though, when you send it to them, can they just do whatever they want to it editorially, or how does that work? I mean, obviously, you can't. Someone is at least proofreading it to make sure you're not just putting crazy anti-Semitic conspiracy theories out there or something like that.
Yes.
But have you ever put in a piece and then read it and been hey, they changed it?
They don't really change it. They kind of give you feedback and you go back and do it. which honestly I think is more helpful. That way you kind of know what you did wrong instead of, or not like what you did wrong, but like something that could be improved down the road.
But say you put something in like at deadline and they're like, well, I don't know, for whatever reason they weren't super happy with like one sentence or another. Like, would they take that out, or would they just let it run as is and they'd be okay with it not being 100% their standard?
I think they just let it go. I haven't had one like one that was like, hey, fix this. Or
okay.
Like,
you haven't, but you. All right, I just, I know in some journalistic experiences, different organizations and such, they write one story and then the editor chops it up, puts a headline on, kind of perverts the story that was written. But it seems like it's pretty clean, and they just kind of like, well, I'm guessing they just have to make sure to get the right people so that they don't really have to police them that hard.
Yep.
So, like, how many views or so? Is that the right metric? Views, clicks, whatever. How much engagement do you get per piece, would you say?
Anywhere from so the podcast itself has like 1,500 people or something that listens to it.
MLS Podcast now. Okay.
Yeah, MLS Now Podcast. That listens to it. Like reads pieces, that kind of stuff. So with that being said, I'd probably say anywhere from 125 to 300-ish, which honestly is pretty good considering most people aren't.
This podcast.
If you're not gonna read, or if you're not a fan of the crew, you're most likely not gonna read it. If that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. I mean, anytime I'm following MLS stuff, I can't say that I'm particularly, if they have a perfect example, whenever there's power rankings, I only look at the Cruise one just to see what they say about them. Or I don't know, just unless I have a particular reason to be like, why is this team ahead of it? But I don't know.
Yeah.
So let me try to ask so let's say the game just ended, and you got all your game notes. How do you go about taking that and turning it into a piece? Like, what is your process, if you will?
Oh man. I really don't use stats as much as other people do. I kind of base it on like what I see.
Okay.
And I kind of with my knowledge of I'm not gonna say I'm super knowledgeable at soccer. But what I have experienced through playing soccer, I kind of incorporate that in as well. Also press conferences, because I do attend those press conferences after matches.
Sure.
So it's kind of the hardest part of journalism, at least for me, is how do I turn this thought into a sentence or a paragraph that people that may not know much about soccer are like, hey, I know what he's talking about.
It's accessible to those who have less. Yeah, that's good.
So that's the hardest part.
But like, how do you go about like building it out, if you will? Like, do you make like a thesis statement, and then do you treat it like a paper where you make an outline, or you just kind of sit down and you just let it gush through the pen?
I just kind of sit down and just honestly just start writing. Like, that might sound cliche, but like,
no, I mean, it's different styles.
Like,
it's different styles.
Yeah, like whatever's on my mind at that time about the game. Like for example, I was at the DC United game in August, in the midst of that 6-game losing streak that they had. And the first thing was, why why can Caleb Porter not stop trying to force playing out of the back, playing from the back, and just give the ball to Nagbe and let him distribute and do what he does best? I don't coach in MLS.
Not yet,
so
anyway.
Yeah, not
Do you
yet.
have aspirations to coach at any point? I don't want to get too tangent.
Coaching, yes. Yeah, I would say yeah.
We'll follow back up on that in a little bit. But anyway, I didn't want to cut you off. Continue.
And then sleeping on it. So normally I have a piece, write a piece, sleep on it. I don't put it out right away. Mostly because I like to proofread before I do that.
But you make sure to get it all out while it's hot.
Yeah. And then go back and edit it later. And then I slept on it. I was like, I probably shouldn't say this. Probably shouldn't have said this. So then it's kind of what can I use or what can I say that sort of means the same thing but isn't as aggressive?
So would you say your style is similar to like an ice sculptor, where you just get the whole block out there and then you chisel it into the art of the story, which can explain it to the viewer?
That's a good analogy. I would have never thought of that. But yeah, I would say yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And what I don't know. What do you what are your aspirations? I guess like what would your top aspiration be? Would you like to write at like the high level, or would you like to be like kind of commentary? I don't know. What's your highest aspiration in terms of, because you very obviously keyed into doing stuff in media. So what would be the ultimate form of that for you, do you think?
I've always wanted to work for ESPN.
Doing what?
Journalism of some type, whether that's broadcast or digital.
Well, like, okay, so
media.
would you want to be like, you wouldn't want to be like the host of Sports Center sitting behind the desk?
I mean, if that's what
you would
they
rather
needed,
be Adam Schefter, if you will.
That sounds really cool. Yes, or Fabrizio Romano.
So you want to be out there getting the scoops, not repeating the scoops someone else got. You like to get it fresh.
Yeah, I'd like to be the first one that like OBJ going to the Rams or whatever, be like, hey, I heard that first. That was me. I broke that news.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. No.
On the other hand, I have also always wanted to work in the front office of a professional sports team.
Front office in terms of like general management?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've also wanted to own my own soccer club. That's something that I want to do and that I plan on doing eventually.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of overlap with that in front office.
Yeah. And what I mean by soccer, like own a soccer club, is not like an MLS team or a USL team.
Yes. Yeah, I know. More like a travel club team.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but that would be that'd be a good stepping stone. Like, to be in a front office would give you the kind of operational insights that you would then, one stepping stone into the next. Interesting.
Yeah.
How would do you think that could also tie in with the journalism, or do you think you would have to pick?
I really don't know. I'd probably have to pick, would be my guess.
Well, you would just have to do it in I guess kind of a different way. I don't know. Are you familiar with like a Substack?
No.
It's just an independent forum for people can post. It's basically just a blog where you can subscribe to people. You wouldn't be able to be a quote unquote journalism probably because your objectivity would be impossible. But you could still put out basically opinion thought pieces. Mm-hmm. So slightly different, but in the same ballpark, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. As long as you stayed away from soccer, I guess you could still remain objective. Well, okay, so this is something interesting as well. Like, I feel like you're someone who kind of breaks the mold in that in America, I feel like there's two kinds of soccer fans. There's the soccer junkies like myself who like super into soccer and do not care about any other sport whatsoever. Or the other group is kind of the more general sports fan. Like they're not super deep into soccer or really anything else, but they just kind of all like them all. But you're kind of one of those few people who is in the middle of that very small Venn diagram intersection where you have deep knowledge on soccer, but you also appreciate other sports. And I feel like, I don't know, do you feel like that's an accurate assessment, or am I a little off?
If you were going to ask which one I was going to say in the middle.
But do you feel like most people fit into one or two of those categories? You're more of a hybrids or a rare breed in this case. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. Most people would. Yeah, most people stick to one sport and like religiously watch that sport, like basketball. They'll like watch football, but it's not like every single game. Hey, sit down and watch this.
Well, there's some people who are like really into baseball, really into football, but they're not into soccer at all.
Yeah.
Especially in America. So that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
In America, you either like, you kind of like soccer and you also like everything else, or you're really into soccer and you don't like anything else. But it's rare to have someone like you who's really into soccer and also still enjoys other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Was soccer your first sport?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And then the other ones kind of came along, or were you? I'm guessing you grew up in a sports enjoying household.
Yeah, I've kind of just always like I don't really
generally, yeah.
I never really watched like television shows as a kid. It was always sports. It was always a basketball game if it was on, football. My whole family played soccer, so soccer, baseball, hockey. Hockey's one that I've recently got into. Here's
a question for you. Which of these is the most similar to soccer? Basketball, hockey, or lacrosse?
Oh man.
I feel like they're all in a lot of aspects, they're very similar.
Yes. I would probably say lacrosse. I'd probably say lacrosse. I feel like soccer is a more tactical sport than it is anything else. Obviously, you have to have skill. Obviously, you have to have a high soccer IQ. But I feel like it's like a lot of it is based on tactics, and I feel like lacrosse is the same way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the way, ball or puck or whatever, ball and off the ball, the way that they move and like passing patterns and stuff are extremely simple. Like when I'm coaching my kids, I have a couple kids who play basketball as well, and I can kind of explain it to them in those sorts of ways. So I don't know. I think there's specifically with those three, there's a huge amount of overlap.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah.
So I can find myself if there's another sport that I can appreciate, at least it's basketball. I can't say that I'm not a huge fan. I can't say that I really ever see lacrosse on TV, which I think is a little bit of a shame. But
I agree. I feel like it's kind of the same boat as soccer, if you really think about it.
I have the same problem. Anytime I've seen lacrosse on TV, I have the same problem I have with it as hockey, where I can't figure out where the damn ball is half the time.
Yeah,
I've tried to watch hockey, can't find the puck.
So I love hockey.
Can't find the damn puck.
Yeah,
I have no idea where it is.
Yeah,
but that's just me. And then I'm a notorious hater of baseball.
I can't stand it. The only time I watch baseball is if I'm live at the stadium.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's like it's a cool hangout. Going to a baseball game can be a cool hangout, but then at the end of the day, it's just like, why do I need to be in a baseball stadium to do this?
Yeah.
Well, so that's where I could see the appeal of maybe going to like your local minor league team. Like I'm Columbus, so we got the Clippers. You're more Cleveland based, right?
Yeah, Akron, yeah.
Well, so you don't have any minor league teams. It's just the Guardians, right?
We have the Rubber Ducks.
Oh, okay. You do have minors up there. Okay, yeah. So a little cheaper. Well, I actually like, speaking of the Clippers, they have on the walk to the new Crew Stadium, they have like that area where you can kind of look into what is it called? I want to say it's called Huntington Park.
Yeah,
where the Clippers play, and I'm like, no, you just sit out here and watch the whole game from out here.
Yeah, literally.
How about going in? So, you know what? I think a lot of people apprehensive about what the traffic buildup was going to be with the Crew moving in there with the Clippers and the Jackets, but I don't know. I think they managed it pretty well.
I agree.
Parking's, you can always find it in a garage or something, so
yeah,
you don't have to walk like, super far, because my mom goes to games like by herself sometimes and gets out at night, so you don't want to be walking like, especially like down where the old stadium used to be. You wouldn't want to be walking around that area.
Yeah.
So like, it's nice that you don't have to walk too far or anything.
But it also helped for me. Like I'd never really had to find parking because I had free parking.
Yeah.
While there, so it was like I always knew I always had a spot. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just nice Columbus is a nice city.
It is. It's very underrated.
It's very much on the rise. It's one of the few. Yeah. It's one of the few cities that's not like coastal. That's actually still growing. Most of the other cities in between are shrinking for a variety of socioeconomic reasons. But yeah. I'm not trying to go on that tangent right now. Maybe later. So let's take it a little bit more. We talked pro. Let's talk a little bit more. You had just finished up your career at Teal College. Both of us attended and played. One of us a little bit more. What's the word I want to use? One of us played a lot more than the other one. We'll put it that way. You ended up third all time in saves and games, right?
Correct. Third all time in career saves. Third all time in career games started, and tied for fourth all time in career shutouts.
All right. Where's my main Conrad on there on saves? I'm sure he's pretty high up.
Second.
Who's number one?
Jeremy something. He had like 650 saves in 4 years, which is insane. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that kind of. And you just finished up your senior year as well. So, you just, a couple weeks ago that was. Do you feel like you have fully accepted the fact that your competitive career is over?
I have.
You have? Okay. Was it difficult to get to that point, or did it feel like, the timing, it was a fitting closing of the book?
I was kind of ready for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
My body really probably can't take much more.
Yeah,
I'm a bigger guy, so.
But it's like especially. Oh, okay. Let me start with this. When did you start playing? Young, I assume.
When I was 3.
Yeah, exactly. So like I don't know, like if you follow, it's
18. I've played 18 years.
Yeah, it's a year. I mean, the next season starts the day after the last game.
Yep.
And for the first time in 18 years, that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
Is that? I don't know. Like, what is that feeling like, knowing that, obviously right now you're relieved, you're taking your breath, but I don't know, just like looking at it in terms of the big picture, kind of how, I don't know, like what's your feeling on it?
I'm kind of in a way glad that it's over. It took me like a week to actually understand and comprehend that, like, you're not going to go to practices anymore. You're never going to have another game that actually means something. And that was a little emotional, I'm not going to lie.
That's what
I may have shed a couple tears after Chatham.
That was senior night, correct?
Yeah.
So did you start kind of preparing leading up to that, or were you just kind of like, I'll deal with it when I get there?
I kind of was like, hey, I'll just deal with it then. I'm normally pretty good at dealing with that kind of stuff.
Well, you kind of underestimate it as well, don't you?
Yeah. I was like, it's not going to be that bad. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You'll feel the same way at graduation, I guarantee.
The buzzer went off. The ref blew his whistle, and I was like, I just kind of like fell down. I was like, it's really over. It's over. And then kind of a week went by. I was like, yes, no practice. I have all this free time. And then it was like, then it hit me. I was like, no more practices. Like, I'm never going to actively participate in a collegiate practice or like a competitive practice that actually means something leading up to something that means something, like a game. But I've fully accepted the fact now that I'm just going to coach.
I just finished my first season of coaching and I absolutely love it. Do you have like do you know where you might be looking to coach this year?
I might be staying to get my MBA.
At Teal?
Yeah, so I may be the goalkeeper coach next year here.
Oh, that would work out. That would work out well. Would that be a paid position or volunteer?
Don't know yet.
Well, I mean, it'd be good either way, I think.
Yeah, either way, it wouldn't matter to me. Obviously, it'd be nice to get paid for that.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, coming out of, coaching, the intensity was obviously a lot less, but even like the season was over, took a week and I had a to-do list a mile long that I've been saving up, got all that done. And I'm like, this is great, hanging out. Yeah. 3 days later, I'm just like, so we're technically still allowed to practice until the state final. Does anyone want to? I'm like texting all the boys, like, you guys trying to practice? And they're like, no, dude, stop. We're tired.
Yeah.
No. Well, and then the end of my playing career was not as, I don't want to say predictable, but it came suddenly. For those who don't know, my playing career ended when I tore my ACL the summer going into junior year, rehabbed it, came back senior year, and then about a month into that season, I tore it again. So, I knew it was going to end at senior year, obviously, but, I still thought I had another 2 months of playing. And then, it was kind of a triple whammy of I'm on crutches again.
Yeah.
And, I can't play. Not only am I done playing, there's no next season. When I tore it going into junior year, like I rehabbed like a motherfucker. Like I was so motivated to get back senior year, and like that was still. But then, like, when it was done, it was, I don't know. I definitely had a hard time coming to grips with that.
Yeah,
I think part of that probably came from the fact that I didn't. It came
in a way that like
was unexpected. There was no way for me to mentally prepare for it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get the chance to mentally prepare for my career ending.
It also wasn't on your terms.
Yeah. So, it was kind of different that way. And like, it just kind of happened to me when your case is a lot more where you kind of see it coming and you're just like, oh man, how do I deal with this? So
yeah,
I don't know. Is it? Well, obviously, like the conditions of how it ended were obviously worse, but I wonder, is it worse to see it coming, or is it worse to just have it pulled out from under you? I think
I feel I'd rather know about it. That way, if you want, you can plan. You can be like, hey, like, yeah, it's going to be over. Whereas if it was just ripped out from under me, it probably would have been much worse. I probably still wouldn't come to terms with it yet.
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. And, unfortunately, not to get too much off track here, I didn't necessarily handle it the best. And I wasn't always, I wasn't sometimes the best person to be around after that happened for a little bit. And I definitely have regrets about that. But, that's life. So, sometimes life knocks you and you don't get to do big things on your terms. Unfortunately, and it comes down to it at this point in everyone's life where family members. Some people have already started losing family. I thankfully haven't really lost that many family members yet.
Me either.
But it's kind of a similar situation there where sometimes it'll be sudden and sometimes it'll be like it's kind of coming and you can start to accept it, and sometimes it just happens. So in a way, it's whenever I'm teaching the game, I try to always teach it as like a microcosm for life. Like, the ref's not fair. Well, life's not fair. If a cop pulls you over and you weren't going over the speed limit, what are you going to do? Fight him? No, you got to pay the ticket. Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
So, I always try to put things in life, and in certain ways, it is a form of death. It's a death of that. I mean, in a way, it's kind of a death of that part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Less of a death and more of a metamorphosis, I'd say. Like when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon before it comes out of the butterfly, it dissolves itself down to the molecular level and then builds itself back up.
Yeah.
So, the dissolving of our, playing and all that stuff will become the ashes for the phoenix of coaching to rise from, if you want to get poetic about it. But in a lot of ways, it is, it's kind of a death to just it's just such a huge part, because especially when you're in the moment, you just don't, you kind of take it for granted. I know I did, I regret every practice where I was like, oh man, I got practice today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to practice, because I now have kids who are like, oh, practice. And I'm just like, you have no idea what I would give to practice and to be,
Yep.
So I don't know. In some ways, I don't know. I'll try to. I'm trying to get to the point. I'll play in adult leagues and stuff, but it'll never be the same. Yeah. And to a certain extent, I don't think you ever really, to act like that's something. Not. I don't know. Like you kind of. That's just something that forever changes. It is like death in that way, where it's something you lose and you just never really get back, but it was there. And I don't know, similar to death, I think we should, think about the good stuff in it rather than I hope my funeral is about positivity and like telling the good stories and not just like, how sad we are that it's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What perfect segue into. I don't know if you saw recently Pipa, Federico Higuain, longtime Crew legend. He retired. Did you see his quote?
I did see his quote.
It was something, for those of you who didn't, it was something along the lines of, they asked him what his favorite moment from his playing career is, and he said, through translator, when you're playing football, every moment is beautiful. And that hit me, man. That hit me for sure. Especially, I don't know. I try not to. I try to look back with fondness whenever possible, even when things didn't necessarily go my way. Just try to look back on the good stuff on it. But I don't know. Of course, you miss it. Of course, you always miss it. But then we get to go into this new step where you, other than a couple people, the occasional coach player. You can't coach and play. So now kind of just playing soccer in a new way, if you will, playing soccer with the mind. That's why I feel like Zidane is the best player ever, because he did it with his body and then he did it with his mind. In terms of managing.
I don't agree with you on the best player ever, but yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I know that's a bit more of a controversial take, but I personally feel like Zidane is the best player ever.
He's up there. I don't think he's the best, but he's up there.
Okay, I'm just gonna bang a couple off, and I'm just gonna curious as to who you will pick here.
I'll just tell you who I'll pick.
Well, I want to give you some matchups.
Okay.
Pele or Maradona?
Pele. Close.
Messi, Ronaldo.
Messi, 100%.
Zlatan Lewandowski.
Lewandowski, probably.
This one's going to be a 3-4, so pick one. Ronaldinho, Zidane, Johan Cruyff.
Man.
Cruyff's another one I would say. He did it with his body and then did it with his mind.
Oh, I have to pick one?
Well, okay, how about we do start, bench, drop.
Start, bench. Oh, man. Start Cruyff. Bench. Zidane. Cut Ronaldinho.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Who else is up there for you in terms of best of all time? OG Ronaldo?
He's up there. Puskas.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Who else?
Beckenbauer?
Thierry Henry's probably up there.
Yeah, Thierry.
That's
Yeah, I mean, I think
probably
that's yeah. I'm trying to think of who else could be at that level, and there's not really anyone.
Yeah.
So interesting. So I brought this up to you before, and I know you obviously follow the crew a lot. So just want to get into one basic question: what the heck went wrong for the crew this season? If you could pick, 3 things specifically, what were the top 3 things that went wrong for us this year?
I think number 1 is injuries.
Yep.
Number 2 would be coaching to an extent.
Okay, fair enough.
In 3, I would, being genuinely honest, just unlucky.
Okay.
The coaching aspect, I feel like there were times when Caleb Porter should, at least I'm not a professional coach, but should have, in my mind, tactically changed some stuff, aka going to a 4-4-2, especially when half of his midfield was hurt.
Yeah.
And putting Zardes and Barry up top. But he's one of those people that sticks with what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really going to fault him much. And then unluckiness, they just were just unlucky half the time. Injuries kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I don't think they were 100% healthy for 1 minute at all during the season.
No, absolutely not. And okay, let me ask you what was the most impactful injury?
Aiden Morris.
Really, I would say Artur. I thought we missed Artur so much this year.
I would say Aiden Morris. And I would say Aiden Morris because he's 18 years old. And at 18 to start an MLS Cup and play the way he did, basically shut down Christian Roldan
Yeah, he was great in that game for sure.
Yeah, and then he was expected to be the starter over Artur.
Really?
Yeah, and then he tore his ACL.
I feel like Artur is one of the most underrated players in MLS.
I agree. I think he is too, but he's so injury prone. He can never stay healthy.
Yeah, that was the thing. Even when he did play this year, he was still like not.
Yeah. But Artur, I would say they're 1A, 1B. Actually, now thinking about it.
And then, okay, so first of all, yeah, injuries, 100% agree with you there. I mean, didn't, and there was lots of short injuries as well. Jossie out for a couple weeks here. Pedro was once again our Iron Man. We didn't really have Diaz available very much of the season, I didn't feel like.
He was there. He was just non-existent.
Well, okay. And number 2, our biggest problem, Derek Etienne. I'm sorry. Just not good enough this year. He started 19 games, and every time the ball would come to him in the final third, he would kill it.
I agree with that. I would also, kind of going back to your last question, I would say Josh Williams too.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like Josh Williams is the backbone of that, the heart and soul of that team, more so than Jonathan Mensah.
Oh, so you're saying his missing was the issue?
Yeah, missing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like in terms of Derek Etienne, where he was.
No. Him missing.
Oh, that's why I was so surprised. I was like, what?
Yeah, no. Him missing.
Yeah, another one I think was, especially when we went, went on those, we were lacking confidence, and especially guys like Abubakar Keita. I mean, he had a strong year last year. I mean, he plays with the U20. He got called up for a reason. He's kind of in the whisperings of being a men's national team, but I think he just got his confidence torn apart. And we got some young guys who just had their confidence torn up. That's just, that's no good. We got Parente a little bit, which I like him, but I mean, obviously Barry was the big revelation of the season. He was great. Yeah. But it shines the flashlight even harder on BWP was a total flop. Yep. He was just so old and immobile. We had to basically just hit it off him into the goal. Yep. And somehow Eric Hurtado was worse. Goodness me, Eric Hurtado was so bad. I mean, how many 1v1s did he miss? Good Lord. Yeah. So, I think that. And then Lucas had a lot of great moments this season, but there was a lot of stretches in games where he was forcing it, trying to do too much himself. And I think that kind of goes back to the confidence thing, where it's like a team, he knows the team's down and he's trying to be a leader, but he needs to understand that that's not necessarily the smartest way to do that, is to just try to do it yourself. Although, to be fair, it worked in a lot of instances. It
did, and they also had a lot of injuries. So there was really no consistency. Yeah.
There was just a lot of times where he had the pass, but he would just try to beat one or two more defenders, and it's like, he was just trying to do too much himself. Yeah. And it's not in a selfish way, but in and also, Arian, what were your thoughts on the announcement of him playing for Armenia? That kind of came out of nowhere for me.
I didn't even know he was Armenian.
His grandparents are Armenian.
Yeah, I saw that, but at the time, no, I had no idea. I think it's a good move, honestly. He was never getting in the Argentinian squad.
Yeah. It just kind of, it caught me off guard, and then it's like, oh man, I thought we thought we were safe from him getting called up, but I guess not. Yeah. Oh man, that's another thing too. I think call-ups really messed with us this year.
That's another thing, yeah.
Jossie got called up, and he got hurt while he was called up. And then you had guys going into health and safety protocol coming back.
Jonathan Mensah, Eloy Room.
Well, there was one weird one where I remember distinctly, Room was allowed to play because, and this didn't make any sense to me, he was allowed to play because he drove back from Houston instead of flying. If he had flown, he would have had to quarantine, but because he drove, he didn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because you're trying to quarantine him from being with his World Cup team, not from the plane. I don't know. That didn't make any sense to me.
I was going to try and explain it. I have no idea, though. I would assume it's because he's by himself. They probably count the drive as some kind of quarantine. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's a long drive back.
Yeah, but usually it's
not
a 48 hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 48 hours, 14 days, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's his, it seemed like a weird, like for example, for Ohio soccer, like they sent out the rules for the off season and stuff. And it's after the season's over, you have 28 days, no contact, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And then all the way at the bottom, it has, we consider a futsal a completely separate sport and have no regulations on it. I'm like, that seems like a really big loophole.
Yeah.
Like, as long as we got flats and we're on something that bounces, we can literally practice 6 days a week. I don't know. Just kind of silly. Okay, how about this? So, EPL just announced their plan for the World Cup, and they're going to be restarting the season 8 days after the final so that they can play on Boxing Day. At 8 days. Hold on. Let me look this up, because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's something.
You're right. I think it's 8 days.
8 days. Yeah, 8 days after the final, we're gonna be playing EPL games.
If you really think about it, the majority, it's gonna be fine, because they're not gonna make it to the final. Where it's gonna hurt is,
but enough will.
Yeah, where the top teams.
I mean, there's a 0% chance that someone makes it to the World Cup final. There's a 0% chance that both teams in the World Cup final don't have significant EPL players on them. There's just no way.
Exactly. I mean, speculating, we probably expect one of France, Italy, Germany, Spain,
Belgium.
Netherlands in there.
Brazil.
Brazil.
All of them.
Yeah, I think it's too quick.
Well, I mean, I think, they've shown time and again they don't care about the players. It's all about the money.
They don't care. Yep.
Well, okay, so given that they just don't care and they're never going to get rid of the schedule congestion, do you think they should stick with the 5 substitutions? I like that they made it, though, that you can't have 5 substitution windows, because you just have this running clock like crazy. So I think that, I don't know, like before I would say, you don't want 5 subs, because when you get subbing a lot, it changes the flow of the game. But if they're going to play this many games this often, then it's just the only, it's not the ideal, but it's the only thing, it's the only thing we can do.
I agree with it. As far as I know, the EPL is the only league that doesn't do 5 subs, or that won't going forward as of right now.
Yeah. Well, they've always been super, the other leagues, well, not all of them, but some of them take off for like winter. The EPL has always been really crunch, but man, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I get that, they're professional athletes, they can recover and stuff, but when you make
they're professional athletes on the other end.
Yeah, when you expect them to put in 90 minutes of pro athlete level soccer every 2 days, it's just not going to happen. And then your product is, they want quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But, that's kind of that's soccer right now, unfortunately. I think I don't know. Do you think it's a little better? Do you think, like, just in terms of corruption and greed and all that stuff, do you think it's any better than it was maybe like 10, 15 years ago with Bladder, or do you think nothing's really changed? Because Bladder and Platini both just got indicted like a week ago or something like that.
I think there's still corruption.
Oh,
yeah. I don't think it's as bad, at least not yet.
I would agree. I think it's
we haven't found out.
Well,
there's always going to be corruption. Like you're just not going to get around it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's just, if it's not better, it's at least not as blatant.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they still gave the World Cup. Well, actually, no, that was still bladder, so never mind. I was about to say they gave it to Qatar, so which that's a whole. So there's questions of teams might boycott, won't play in Qatar.
Teams.
Yeah, I'm saying like if like, well, I know right now the one that I've heard for sure is Norway, which is Haaland's team.
Yeah.
Not just him, obviously. They've got Odegaard as well. But, if France and Spain and all the, I would think the countries that are all part of the European Union, they would probably all go together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. Well, it just, if enough dropped out, you think they would just be like?
I think they'd audible. I think it's, again, all about money for them. I really don't think they care. If teams like, say, France, Italy, Belgium are like, yeah, we're not playing here because of.
But what if because of all the oil money, they would still make more money even if the top teams weren't there? You think they'd still stay for the money?
No, I think they'd audible.
But what if they were going to make more money by not audibling?
Oh, then they'd stay. If they were going to make more money, it's all about the money. If they were going to make more money, no matter what teams were there, they're going to bulldoze through it. Okay,
that's what I was. Because obviously they care about money, but there's there's the image of the World Cup and all that stuff. But I would agree they don't care. I don't think that's the smart business. I mean, if you're looking at total profitability, I think that's a short-term decision that would lead to long-term unprofitability, because they get the short fix. But I think if they plowed through, there would be such a rift that you might legitimately see like the Europa teams pull out of FIFA altogether, or try to start their own like FIFA. Well, maybe that's where the Super League comes in, because they want to do their own World Cups anyway. That's a whole nother mess.
Yeah.
And of course, I have to be a freaking Real Madrid fan, even though our owner is a literal James Bond. Florentino Perez is the worst. I don't want to say I hate him, but I don't like the way he runs Real Madrid at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's good for the game at all. When that first announcement came out, so I'm both a City and Real Madrid fan. I was like, if they go through with this, I can't support them anymore. I just can't. I can't. And they backed off. But some teams are still pushing for it harder. Real Madrid, Barca, Juventus, Man United, they all still want it very badly. It seems like some of the other ones were like, I can't. They couldn't afford to say no. Like Tottenham and Arsenal, they didn't belong in there. Goodness me! Mm-hmm. Like if you're Arsenal, you're never gonna win a game. Good lord.
Yeah.
But they were invited, and they're like, we can't afford to say no.
Yeah.
Like in a business sense. So I think Man City was a little bit more in that camp. So I view them a little bit more favorably, but it's still despicable in itself. Yeah. And then now we have Newcastle. The new boys on the block. They're 10 times wealthier than the next closest owners. 10 times. Multiple of 10. Good lord. They're talking about we're going to go get Ter Stegen and all this stuff. I'm like, what in the... Well, they're supposed to be a traditional powerhouse. I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And they literally signed a Mexican named Santiago Muñez. So, It's happening.
Yep.
Those are good. I never saw the third one. I saw the first and second Goal movies. I liked them, but it bothered me how off the soccer. Have you ever watched a soccer show? I haven't seen Ted Lasso. I've heard amazing things about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a Spanish language one called Club de Cuervos that I've watched.
Okay.
Any fictional soccer stuff. Like the soccer action is always off, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that you can tell that they're not actual soccer players, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, One where I would say that's not the case is the all-time soccer kids movie classic, Kicking and Screaming. Best soccer kids movie ever. And
yeah,
those
I'd
kids
agree with that.
actually look like they could play, especially the Italian kids. Like they look like they're actually playing soccer.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I love that movie. Forgot about it. It's one of those movies where you watch like 100 times as a kid, and then you're just like, oh yeah, that existed. Like someone I was working with a dude yesterday, and he was like, yeah, I just got a 2-for-1 DVD sale on Ace Ventura, and I'm just like, well, I went back in the time machine in my head for a minute, and I'm like, a glove.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we can start wrapping it up here. So what's your schedule for like when do you stream? When can the people see you streaming on Twitch?
I really don't have a schedule at the moment. Okay. I kind of like just started like 2 days ago. So
they should just follow you on social, and then they'll know.
Yeah.
Awesome. And don't forget, guys, down in the description will be all the links for Devon, GloryToFootball, the Twitch channel, all that stuff. And then also don't forget there's always a charity down there if you want to support that. Devon, thanks again for having you on. I'm looking forward to talking to you again, and I look forward to reading your feature for the crew soon on Room.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I'm excited about it.
So awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Dev.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Another illuminating episode of the DP2daBrain podcast. Thanks for listening and watching, guys.